All right, guys, for my current issue, I chose screen time reduction in America. So the issue at hand is that we spend a very large amount of time in front of screens, which makes sense. We do live in a technologically dominant society. But due to that, many of the aspects of human life from the past are diminishing. And by that, I mean individuals are far less indulgent in physical communication, which in hand is affecting their ability to communicate as a whole. I don't think we communicate nearly as well as we used to. And screens are definitely playing a part in that. We're not as productive as we once were, and we're not pursuing hobbies that don't involve technology as much. Our life is starting to revolve around technology. So here's some statistics I found from the CDC. Children from 8 to 10 years old spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen. Children 11 to 14 years old spend 9 hours a day in front of screens. And ages 15 to 18 spend about 7.5 hours a day. The average American spends up to 12 hours in a day, which when you include sleep is more than half of your day, which is just a lot of time. So back to what I was saying before about productivity, the 1.2% average annual productivity growth we've been experiencing since the mid-2000s is actually less than half of what it was in the decade prior, and is slower even than the 20-year slowdown from 1974 to 1994. So even though we can multitask so much better with all these devices and all these platforms, it's hurting our productivity because I think our ability to focus on one thing is greatly decreasing. So what can we do? I have three approaches here. One is pretty moderate, one is gentle, and one is super harsh. So the first one is personal choice. So guiding individuals in the right direction to make their own decisions and make healthy, balanced decisions is what this idea is about. The second one would be rules and regulations for reducing screen time. This is the most infringent one. Putting in proper or necessary regulations to make sure that adults are not consuming too much technology in a day to where it's unhealthy. And the third option would be to specifically just focus on the use and molding them for our future, because I feel like it is most visible sometimes in children in comparison to how we used to act as children or how our parents used to act as children. We're very reflective upon that, and it is very obvious that our children today are so engulfed in technology. So the first one I mentioned was personal choice. I have three propositions here. The first one would be propose a nationwide agenda, stressing the importance of living a healthy, balanced lifestyle. The second one would be to have schools monitor their students' screen times. It won't be consequential. There will be no reprimandment for having a high screen time, but it will help students and faculty get a better understanding of where that child is at, and it can guide them in the right direction. Say if their grades were down, to say, hey, your screen time is pretty high here. What can we do to focus you better on your work? And the way this could be done would be like using a reading log that you used to use in school. Very simple. And the last one was to have a set reduction in screen time each week. Having a goal to work towards makes everything easier, and it makes the thought of reducing your screen time less intimidating and more incentivized. So the drawbacks to this option is that if we look at the statistics I had said before, the screen usage time is high. And to see a majority of people be self-reliant in reducing their screen time is pretty tough, because the studies have shown that most people are not able to. Another drawback is that many of us are already aware that this high screen time is no good for us, yet we continue to do so. The care isn't present in a lot of cases. The second option was rules and regulations. So we can have grade schools apprehend screens for a portion of the day. We can also have schools require curriculum teaching students about the positive and the negative effects of our vast access to technology. And then we can also have curriculum teaching what we can do better to consume it in a healthier manner. And lastly, we can have phone providers monitor usage rates more heavily than they already do. And having child modes that only let that individual be on the screen for a certain period of time would be very helpful in parents' control and the kids' overall consumption. So this is definitely the most infringent option, and there are some drawbacks to it. Mass restriction is not easy by any means. This is hard to find a happy medium that doesn't feel too intrusive, and that if you want to add curriculum, it adds more cost to budgets. They're already struggling as is. You know, some schools and townships don't have the budget to add more curriculum, and that is the sad truth of some of this. So here's a quote I found from the Let's Move campaign. This was started by Michelle Obama. It was not incentivized to reduce screen time, but more just to get children active, but these do go hand in hand. And the quote says, things such as watching television or Netflix can become a habit, making it easy to forget what else the world has to give, giving children opportunities like playing outside, picking up an entirely new hobby, or learning a sport. The list goes on and on. And this just really coincides with what I'm trying to get, the point I'm trying to get across here. So the third option is to have public health departments push harder to get kids into activities that are not screen intensive. A perfect example was in 2016, the Los Angeles Public Health Department started a initiative specifically targeted towards children to reduce screen times and get children active. And it's still in place today. It's still going on. So you can also encourage parents to better utilize town properties and facilities. There are so many programs and activities for children to take advantage of, whether they're aware of it or not. A lot of this, I think there's equal distribution in the blame of children and parents. Parents have to do a better job of letting their kids know what they can do and maybe giving them a gentle push to go engage in some other healthier activities. We can also have parents be just more proactive in general. A lot of kids nowadays have so many forms of technology, it's unbelievable. A prime example would be some kids have an iPhone, an iPad, a laptop, and an Xbox. That's a lot of technology to have at your hands at such a young age. So I think, and oftentimes it is necessary to have a cell phone. It was necessary in my life when I was growing up. But making sure these parents are just a little more conscious of the value these devices have when you hand them over to your child and how it can affect their life. The drawbacks to this option is that limiting your child's access to technology ultimately puts them at risk of not fitting in with others because that is the social norm. It puts them at the risk of feeling uncomfortable. You always have to worry about bullying and your child being looked down upon for not fitting in. And a similar drawback to previous option is that, yeah, we can encourage people to go use these facilities and these programs, but the fact of the matter is that not every town has the greatest facilities or programs available to the community. Budgets can change with every township, so this could always be an issue in certain situations. So the connection to REL. Technology is very much a part of our day and in our leisure. It's a part of my leisure. But you gotta look at the positives because there are definitely positive ways that technology has affected us as REL professionalists and partaking in REL. So our duty as professionals is to open the eyes to individuals to the extensive activities and programs available, as well as enriching the individual's life. So we have to make sure that we have numerous options that draw people away from the screens for a little bit. And we also have to help diversify the population and make sure we're not conforming to this one size fits all society. We don't want to all be on our phones at all times. We want to be able to be different and have hobbies that make us more engaged and just make us more interesting as people. Also, as REL professionals, we can have programs and informative sessions on technology and its benefits and its downsides, and how to move away from it for a little bit and engage in some other healthy recreation and leisure activities. There's so much things we can do to this. This has a very big connection to us as the REL community. And these are my sources. And that's it. Thank you for watching.